Attaining gender equality in a world that is fast evolving is one task many say has to be achieved, more so because gender balance is fast also becoming a global crisis. And if not checked, it could erode human rights. The program is Gender and Parliament on the services of the Nigerian Television Authority, the largest television network in Africa. My name is Vivian Itekwefo. We have our guest who will be sharing her vast experience with us. She is the senator representing Akwa Ibom South Senatorial District of Akwa Ibom State in the 9th National Assembly. Before coming to the National Assembly, she was the Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development in 2014 under the administration of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. My guest is Senator Akon Eyakenyi. Welcome to the program. Now, let's start from what has always been your passion, which is teaching. Let's know from you what it is that we could do to make smart learning the way to go for the young populace.
Thank you, Vivian. I want to say I'm happy to be with you today. I'm Senator Akon Eyakenyi, representing Akwa Ibom South Senatorial District. As a woman and as a teacher that you have identified, we all know that education is the foundation of any growing nation, a community, a family. You need education, whether formal or informal. So education starts from the home and mostly from the mothers. As a mother, as a woman, you owe the young generation, the upcoming generation, a duty to ensure that that foundation is properly laid before they can step out to meet the teachers or step out to meet the other teachers in the church, from there molding the life of the future leaders. So how do we get the younger generation in the digital world, like you've asked? As a teacher, I'd gone through the primary school teaching, the secondary school teaching, and I transferred my service also to the ministry in the inspectorate division, monitoring what teachers were doing in the school with the children. What is going on in the world today, the changing world? The world is changing into a global village with ICT taking the root of everything. That you can stay here and undergo a study outside Nigeria or anywhere in the country. The foundation to improve that level, the youth stage, for them to grow into meaningful adults, my own view is the ICT foundation. Other than the other things I have mentioned, ICT. That's why when I came in into the 9th Assembly, I want to say that my very first motion was on improvement, how to get teachers to be properly educated in the use of ICT, and then the students themselves also to make good use of the ICT equipment. So the transition from that tender age into what is going on in the nation, in the world, will basically have to do with the improvement of the ICT in the education sector.
Okay, so now let's put this side by side with the Day of the African Child that was celebrated recently which had part of the theme reads that restoring the dignity of the African child of restoring the dignity of the African child. That is Agenda 2040. That's having an Africa that is fit for the African child. Let's put this side by side with the digital education.
Yeah, it's in line with what I have just said. If we look at the world generally, our children here, our youth, our students, are they able to meet up with what is going on in the other climes? For now, I will say no and yes to a certain percentage. If the African child must fit into the global world, the technology based world, then what I said about ICT must be properly developed, established, let it become a part of the younger generation. Everything now is online, learning online, research online. You rarely see students or teachers carry textbooks like we used to do, that you have to read from page to page, cover page to the last page for you to be able to know. That textbook is online now. If students in Africa are not properly developed, empowered to make use of that, there's no way they can meet up what is going on in the outside world. So, and particularly as it relates to Nigeria, our own nation, the giant of Africa, we must get our children properly grounded in that line to meet up what is going on.
So where is the place of indigenous technology, being that you are on the committee of science and technology?
No, I'm not there. I'm in education, basic and secondary.
Okay, so where is the place of indigenous technology?
The indigenous technology, for example, recently there's a launch of students of phone, the smartphone that was presented to Mr. President recently, developed in Nigeria. What is important is the quality of what we produce here. If we get our younger generations to make use of their minds, think of what to do. Recently, I think he's in Aba, a young youth was shown on the television. He produced a sample of an aeroplane. He was able to fly it to a certain height before it will come down. If such a child, a youth, is picked up, government will show interest, the private sector will show interest, and develop that child. Get that child to get proper training, to do more research into what that vision is. By tomorrow, in the nearest future, you can have a Nigerian, an indigenous production of aeroplane, or cars are being developed here in Nigeria also. We need to ensure that our own technology, that we improve upon the quality so that what we call made in Nigeria can compete very favorably with what is going on in the other climes.
Now, when we look at the percentage of youth that are into technology-driven areas of study and means of livelihood, we find that the girl child is not so prominent, and that brings to mind the STEM, where we have policies around getting children to be more interested in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and all that. What is your take on what could be done to encourage the girl child in STEM?
it has to start from the home background, the foundation the parents lay, what the children are or a child is exposed to back home will influence what happens in the classroom. On getting to the classroom, the approach, the teacher's techniques to be able to identify what the area of calling, will I say, specialty of a particular child is. Encourage that child towards that. Not because we are looking for the girl child joining the STEM era or in the sciences, you force a child that was pure arts to divert in there. She may not do well. We could identify them, and as you identify, encourage them to follow the line of the training. Sponsorship also can influence that. Instituting special funds or sponsorship to encourage the girl child to go into the science, medicine, engineering, aeronautical, name them, the sciences. The few that have dared to do, they are doing very, very well. My granddaughter is reading architecture. She's a first class candidate so far in her third year, and I'm very certain by the time she comes out, she will excel. That's an area that one will say, oh, the men dominated it. But our children are coming up, and all we owe them is to encourage them. The government owes the children, the girl child, that duty also. Other than that, policies that are made from the legislature and then the executive should also give room to the girl child to also compete favorably with their counterparts.
Now, while the normal school year calendar, was going on, we had COVID, which then interrupted so many things, and then online learning became very popular. There is this internet picture that was going around, having a picture of a little girl from, let me say, a less privileged background, perhaps in a village, and it had this writing: what happens to us? We can't afford to be schooling online. So now this talks, how do we close this gap? Those in the urban areas, those who have access to technology, who have access to the internet, and those in places that are underserved.
Yeah, it goes back to the motion that I raised. The call I made to the government to implement was to ensure that the rural areas, the government schools, not private, before a parent will send a child to a private school, quote, that parent will at least have the capacity to provide a smartphone or an iPad for a child to start learning. And then such private schools will have teachers in the computer subjects. But in the private school, in the public school, government schools that you find in the village, the rural settings, even some in the urban setting, don't have trained computer teachers. Even when they do, you won't find computer in such schools. Even when you find computers in such schools, internet will serve as a problem. A child that a parent cannot pay fees, cannot even afford uniform, not to talk of textbooks, might find it difficult to provide data for such a child. So what I proposed was for government to equip the rural schools, the government schools, secondary, primary, in the rural setting with computer equipment, train teachers, and then get computer training to be compulsory. When it comes from that level, the issue of having data, we have the cyber providers now that government can get one in a particular environment that will service such centers. I remember when I was chairman technical schools board in my states, I had 6 schools, 6 technical secondary schools under me. There was nothing like computer centers in such in the schools. It was during my tenure that the 6 schools had minimum of 100 computers, and then I ensured computer teachers were sent in there to train the children. It's not just reading on textbooks. They'll write what is computer, what are the parts of computer, and that is all. The practical part of it matters. If you look at what is going on today in Nigeria, JAM, NECO, WAEC, any exams they are writing, mostly they are computerized. JAM, last Saturday, 19th, everything was on computer. So if a child in the government secondary school in the rural setting that desires to make a university and is to write JAM alongside a child that went through the private school, well trained, well exposed, and they have it in the home to practice, definitely this one will do better than this. So government consciously must ensure that that sector of the education is equipped. It's not just the infrastructure of school blocks. It's not just sending the teachers there. It also has to do with the equipment that we have for them to be able to meet up with what is going on in the world.
We will talk more about education and youth leadership, and then we'll come to women in politics. But before then, we'll take a break. The program Gender and Parliament returns shortly. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, the program is Gender and Parliament on the NTA, and our guest is still here, Senator Akon.
Eyakenyi.
Akon
Eyakenyi.
Yes, I got it this time. Thank you for staying with us, distinguished. Now, let's talk about youth and leadership. Because they always say the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. How do we get them involved in responsible leadership?
Well, thank you very much. If you look at the population of Nigeria, the youth bracket, they dominate. From 60 downwards, that's plus, they have the lower score. Youth, yes, they are the future leaders of tomorrow. I won't be a senator for life. In the next few years, definitely I'll step aside. Another person, the youth, they have the right to occupy any position of authority. How do they get there? If you look at what is happening in Nigeria today, Anybody that wants to cause problem is the youth they want to employ. Any issue is the youth. You will not see a 70-year-old man, 80-year-old man go out to do demonstration or commit any atrocity. It's the youthful range of Nigerians that do that. It is their right to demand for what they want positively. It is their right to desire to occupy any position they want positively in the right direction. And we owe the youth a responsibility. When I say we, the adults range, the government, the society, the community, the home, we owe the youth a responsibility. What responsibility? The first one I'll want to emphasize on is that of getting them to have a proper mind setting. Proper mind setting. When a child grows up, after secondary, probably after university, you've graduated, the next thing is, what do I do? Some will look for white-collar job, which in Nigeria is very scarce now. Others might look at the entrepreneurship angle, and they can survive from there. Some will now turn into politicians overnight, PA to PA, and so on. They want to get attached. And without learning the ladder, they want to just jump in. It's not violence that will get them what they want. It is a proper mind setting, wisdom to move for what you want. They have a vision. Add wisdom to it. When they add wisdom, you'll be able to think, if I approach this issue this way, what will be the end result? And then you follow it positively. The government must also do things to encourage them, because when the unemployment rate, like it's happening in Nigeria, is too much, that a child will graduate, come out from school, and stay for 20 years without a meaningful employment. And he or she does not have any other thing to do. They say an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Definitely, there'll be a way for them to engage negatively, but that is not the right way. So, to get the youths who are the future leaders to move in the right direction, there must be a conscious effort to get their mindset right. There must be a conscious effort by the government, by the society, to engage them positively in the entrepreneurship era. Well, thank God, the present administration they made approvals for empowerment of youths, women. When I say youth, it cuts across both men and women in agriculture. If a young man or a young lady can get a space like this, don't go for mechanized farming. Start small and grow big. A small space behind your father's house or within your father's compound, or a farmland owned by the family. Go there with the little funds that government provides. Start something small. You can start, if it is cassava, there will definitely be the off-taker to get it. Is it in poultry? Like in my own senatorial district, I identified that my youths were there in large number. During the elections, they all came out to support me. And so my first thoughts was, how do I gather them? How do I help them? How do I empower them? The first thing I did was training in scaffolding, and then the oil and gas sector training.
Does this form part of your 5-point agenda for your constituency?
Yes, that was the first thing I did, because I had the empowerment training. Why I picked scaffolding? Any building today, be it a high-rise, a bungalow, whatever, you need scaffold. Like where we are, if you need to paint this room down, you will need a scaffold. Definitely, you cannot just stand and reach the ceiling to paint or the end of the wall. You will need scaffold to climb. So I gathered over 500 of them, trained them in scaffolding and in rigging, in safety. My own area is a river, the oil producing sector. You have many companies, all companies working there. And each time there's always protests. Oh, people working there are from outside. And when questions are raised, the answer will be, we don't see trained people, certificated people. That was what pushed me in training them. And to the glory of God, a few of them have been picked. Not all of them will be employed one day, but gradually they can go in. Scaffold, after the training, what I'm doing this year is to give them the equipment itself. I couldn't afford it that time. It's coming in, and I'm forming them into cooperative. If you have a cooperative of maybe 10, 30, 50 with a scaffold, that group can conveniently take care of 2, 3 buildings. All they'll do is divide themselves. You enter the streets. People are building. Go get a job. You enter, and by the time this group will go there, take the equipment, do the work, they'll get money. This one will do. They can earn a living. It's not just politics. It's not just politics. Everyone cannot be a senator. Senator said for my senatorial is just one. It's only when I leave that another person will come. And if 100 youths will wait to occupy the seat, it's not possible. So what do I use the position now to do to help them? Training, I've done. Poultry, I did equip them with 100-day-old chick with a cage, with the feet. Any sensible youth with wisdom, a good mind setting, can start small with 100-day-old chick and grow mega. Grow mega. Government gave a special grant for agric, which we help the constituents to access for farming. If they go in and engage themselves meaningfully, they will. And then those who desire to be in politics, take up one leadership position or the other, you approach it genuinely, positively. Definitely, the future is for them. So we need to encourage them. Government needs to encourage them. We politicians need to encourage them to move in. The training that we do from time to time, it helps in the mindset. Again, what I did, the security retreat I did that involved all security operatives in my senatorial, the youths, the traditional rulers who are the custodians at the community level, and then I got in from the church, the religious leaders also. They came together and we were able to ask ourselves, what truly is the cause of insecurity?
And what answers did you get?
Mostly unemployment, bad governance. Those were the things the Unemployment, bad governance, lack of work to do. That pushed them. If they see you sitting like this, why must it be you? No, they will. They are human beings. When they are not well taken care of, they are bound to look for the other way to also push to get what is their own share of what is going on. So we need to balance the training of the mindset, getting them to apply wisdom to what they are doing, what they are desiring to do, enabling them, giving them that enabling environment to do better.
Now let's keep with balance and let's look at women participation in the political process, especially as Nigeria clocked 22 years of uninterrupted democracy, and a lot is being celebrated. How would you rate the participation of women in the political process?
The percentage of participation of women in the Nigerian politics has not been fair. For example, in the 9th Assembly, 109 senators, only 8 are women, not even 9 to crossing. Why? Only 8 out of 109 senators. Go to reps, the same thing. Past years, it's been like that. You have 2 women senators, 3, 5. You go to the states, at the state level, the same thing. In Nigeria, I don't think we've ever had a female governor before. No. You can have a deputy, which is very few. You can count the number of female deputy governors. Why? The women have not been given their position. Even though we had the 35% affirmative approval, has it been implemented in Nigeria? The answer is no. Uganda and other nations, they have implemented it, but in Nigeria, no. Women find it very difficult to break through because of violence. A woman naturally is a peace lover. We want things to be done the right way, talk to you, convince you, you follow, talk to another person. But when you get into the field, you see guns, you see machete, you see violence. That shrinks in a woman that wouldn't want to have that part. I was lucky in Akwa Ibom State. I want to say Akwa Ibom is a model in gender support. Number 1 in Nigeria. Out of the 3 seats, senatorial seats, 1 is a woman. That's commendable. We have House of Assembly. We have 2 women in House of Assembly. At the local government level, we have 5 chairmen, female chairmen. Before now, you wouldn't have any. It was all masculine. But with the present administration, it gave women the right to occupy based on the party approval, the percentage. At the party level, ward, chapter, and the state's party structure, women have their correct number, which was a mandatory demand that the governor granted the women of Akwa Ibom State. I wish other states will do same. Women will come up with the number to equate what we were given. The 35, we don't even have up to 5%. It's not up to 5% of what is going on in Nigeria. So my assessment of the gender participation or the privilege so far is poor. I want to encourage, I want to demand that women should be given their due place. Violence should be taken off politics, the economic part of it.
Money politics?
Politics today is money. How much do you have to offer? Let's take that apart, away. That is why most people in political offices are not able to do anything, to go back to the constituents, to fulfill the promises that they made. If one will go to borrow or buy money or whatever to run for an election, by the time he or she gets into office, the thought is, how do I pay back? So if the constituents, those who do the voting, will say, I will vote you, but I demand when you get there, come back home. Whatever is due to the community, to the constituents, bring it back home. I think it will be a better approach. With that, women have the hearts. Very rare before you see a woman get into a position and she want to swallow all without remembering her background. I remember my background. If you ask about me, go back home and ask what I've done so far in 2 years. I think it's been fair.
Yeah, so now I was reading your profile on the internet and I found that when you became a minister, you were actually pulled out from the technical board you were heading. And then from that ministerial appointment, after a few years, you are now at the National Assembly making laws for the country. How did you manage that transition? You know, I see it as something, you know, you were not given, yes, you were not given a choice of would you come, wouldn't you come? You were just called to serve at the national level, and it is just going from one level to the other. So, how did you manage the switch?
Well, I want to say that as an educationist, any sound, properly trained educationist should be able to fit into any level at any given point in time. Yes, this is my first legislative engagement. I'd been a supervisor, I'd been a board member, I'd been a commissioner, I'd been a board chairman, I'd been a minister, and then suddenly there's this switch. When I was serving as a commissioner, as a governing council chairman, as a minister, commissioner, I was interacting. Once in a while, you will have meetings with your state's legislative arm. And then we were also interacting at the federal with the minister. Then as a minister, I was interacting with the Senate, with the House of Reps that had the legislative oversight function over my ministry. That gave me the experience. So experience, I will say, enabled me to have the switch without any hindrance. When the call came from my people, there was a vacuum in my party. My predecessor switched and there was a vacuum. Across the 12 local governments of my senatorial district called me out because the second term was still in my federal constituency. And so someone from my federal constituency had to step in to complete the tenure of 2 terms for the federal constituency. And I had the call, the 12 local government. My call was not just from my party, PDP. I had from APC, I had from PDP to come and serve the people. Why did they do that? If I had this record of where I served, the call for service was already there, that in whatever position I found myself, I excelled. I always left a mark. It's on record. I'll leave a mark. So the call for service was there, and then the experience helped me to have the switch without any problem.
Yeah, we see the award there, Nigerian Professional Working Women, the award of excellence.
Okay.
And Pace Setter.
Thank you.
Mentoring for the younger generation, for those coming up. There have been talks and there have been workshops, seminars, and a lot of programs going on a cross-generational interaction as a way of building the younger generation, getting the older generation to pass on what they have to the younger generation. What is your take on this? Would it really have the impact that it is expected?
Of course, definitely it will have a great impact to mentor the younger generation to take over. Because we all know, we know that you cannot be there for life. So if you don't mentor, consciously some girls come to me, Mommy, I love you. Mommy, I want to be like you when I grow up. I want you to mentor me. They offer. For such, you have to embrace them. Other than that, the organized mentorship that goes through several trainings is there. It's the results that we have. Most of the young girls, I will always cite my state as an example, that you now have as supervisors, some in the boards, some counselors, are those that we mentored. How do you mentor? The way you carry yourself for them to see you as a role model. The way you talk, you relate with the men folk, the way you relate with other women, it can serve as a role model to help them grow. How do you carry yourself in the society? When you're looking for something, how do you carry yourself? Mentorship has different aspects that you mentor the younger generation. You can mentor them in having what to do to be able to take care of themselves. Not everything you need, you have to go to a man or you have to go to somebody to seek. That's when you're exposed. Mentorship has different perspectives. So I will want to encourage and support very strongly mentorship of the younger generation to take over from us when we eventually step aside.
Does the media have the role in gender balance?
100% yes. I will want to say media has a great role. Media, when they interact, they know what is happening in the society, in the nation. What percentage of women, if they project it, if they shout, if they help us to shout, definitely it will encourage the authorities to do their own part. It will encourage the women themselves to come out. Not when they do bad, you run in. No, come out, calm the situation, use the peaceful position that God gave to you, calm the situation and then move in. So we encourage, we believe media, I believe media has a great role to play to help boost the gender equality for us.
Thank you so much, Distinguished, for coming on the program.
Thank you, Vivian.
The program is Gender Empowerment. I'm sure you did have a wonderful time and you did share in the experiences of our distinguished guests today. Do join us same time next week for another edition. My name is Vivian Itepefo. Please reach us on the